Hello, my roses. This is Budgeting Rose. Today we'll be discussing Bob's Burgers Season 7, Episode 5, called Large Brother, Where Fart Thou? In this episode, Bob and Linda meet with their accountant to prepare their taxes. And then when they were talking to their accountant, I guess he must have asked them like, oh, how much are you going to contribute to your retirement fund? And then they just like laughed and were like, zero. So that got me thinking about what tips I would give the Belcher family. So here are my tips of what they should do. Like, because not contributing to retirement is really bad. Like, to me, they're probably like in their late 30s to early 40s. And retirement isn't too far off. Like, yeah, we're saying maybe they would retire in their 60s. So they don't have a lot of time, even though you're like, yeah, that's more than 10 years. You have plenty of time. No, they do not. They do not have time. They need to do it now. They need to make these changes as soon as possible. But besides that, besides not contributing to retirement, yeah, there's some other issues right there. But let's see what tips I would recommend for them. They need to write a will. So, of course, you're like, why do they need to write a will? Nobody's dying. They're young. They have time. Yeah. So this is all from my learning about Dave Ramsey. So these aren't like per se my tips, but this is what I've learned from Dave Ramsey. This is what he says. And I am totally fully with what he said. So it's important to write a will because they have small kids. So just on the fact that you have small kids, okay? So if both parents, something happened, you're like, okay, most likely both parents wouldn't be gone. But yeah, there's some craziness. So let's say Linda and Bob are both in the car driving. They get into a car accident. Both of them don't survive. Boom, they're both gone. So now it's like, okay, what happens to the kids? So from the episodes, we know that Linda has a sister who has a lot of cats and like lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. And she's not like super responsible. So there's her. And then Bob has his dad who he like doesn't like and escaped from years ago. So it would be important to know, like, okay, what did the parents want to happen to their children, to their kids? Who do they want to raise them? So that's an important question the will could answer. Yeah, so they just need to get that done as soon as possible. Number 2, they need to increase their income. They're barely making it. And when I say barely making it, I mean that they're not making it at all. Like, at all. And we see that in the fact that their rent is always late. They never have money, and they couldn't contribute to their retirement fund. They need to make a budget and stick to it. So, of course, you're like, but they don't have any money. So why do they need a budget for something they don't have? Well, they need to budget so that when they want to get something, they can save up for it and get it. They need to make a budget because a budget is a plan of what you will do to improve your circumstances financially. And then they need to stick with the plan so that they can do better and get better. They need to build an emergency fund. So this is like pillar 1 of Dave Ramsey. He says after you get your, become current on all your debt, the next thing is to build an emergency fund of $1,000. And yeah, the same goes for the Belchers. They need to build an emergency fund after becoming current on their debts. The next thing is the parents need to save for retirement. They're not 50 years away from retirement. It's coming up soon. They need money to live off of when they can't work anymore. And you're like, well, they can just work till they're 70. Yeah, but you know, the older you get, you don't know what medical issues you'll have. You might not be able to work anymore based on an illness or something like that. So you need to have money that you can use at that time. because being forced to work when you're sick is horrendous and you shouldn't have to. And yes, some people will say they can just rely on their Social Security. They've been working forever. It's not enough money. It's really not. Especially like over here in America, that money doesn't, it's not a lot. So you need a second source of income for retirement to survive. They need to teach their kids to budget and plan. So I wrote that one because we need to stop this from going on to the next generation. So their kids need to learn how to budget now. They need to plan what to do with their money. They need to learn the value of money. They need to, mind you, the kids do work in the restaurant, but the parents need to do better so they can show the kids better, so the kids can do better. And then the generation can be, you know, in one generation, they can have more money. So those are the 6 tips I would give to the Belchers. And what tips would you guys give them after watching the episode? Let me know. All right, my roses, this is it for this episode. Please make sure to like, comment, and definitely subscribe. And as always, love you, my roses. See you next time. Bye.